Hello fellow map makers and welcome to tonight's live map making session. Hope you're all doing fine and you're looking forward to another hour of nice map making with Campaign Cartographer. Hope the sound is good. Certainly get a warning that my streaming rate is a bit low. Don't know why. Let me know whether it's okay or whether I need to fiddle with some settings. Sue says sound is good. That's nice, thank you very much. And if my video is a bit pixely, that shouldn't matter much as long as you can see the map itself. Alright, what do we want to do tonight? I wanted to take another look at lighting effects in Campaign Cartographer, and especially in dungeons. While we've done a video on the topic before, I do want to focus a bit more on setting it up from scratch, because many of the drawing styles in Campaign Cartographer are not set up to do lighting effects from the start. So setting them up and getting them running properly can be a bit difficult, especially if you're new to lighting effects. And while we certainly want to improve that in the future, especially in CC4, which we're working on, I want to make sure you can set up your lighting settings yourself in Campaign Cartographer 3+ already. And we have a good reference video for that, how to do this. And there's the cat. Hi, Asa. Let's see, we'll probably see a tail walking by the camera in a moment. It's definitely checking on me since I started talking again. Come on, here you go. There she is. There's the black tail, the most you see of the cat every time. All right. So let's see, I've already set up a little map with light effects here, basically just as a teaser, and I'm going to load up a new map where we start from scratch setting up the light effects. So I'm going to go to open and see here, this is my lighted dungeon map which I want to open, and here we are. Here is the map without any lights. I do have set up some stuff like torches here, the symbols, and the furniture does cast some shadows, but it's not really any effect of the light of the torches or anything. And the torches themselves are a little bit weak in this style, I guess. Well, the style overall, the Dungeon John Roberts style is very nice. The torches are not very visible and do vanish a little bit into okay, sorry. So just a Remy's comment that this is a Ralph controlling tentacle. Yes, I think you can call it that. Let me show you the cat for a second. Here's the cat. So it goes with the tail. All right. Torches. I was talking about torches, not cats. All right. So we do want to set up some nice light effects. And while the map is fully practical and nice this way, setting up a moody dungeon with some nice light effects makes it much more presentable work of art, perhaps, or at least gives it some special atmosphere. And while many virtual tabletops nowadays do lighting effects and stuff on their own, it can be very nice just to have a map prepared this way to show it off to people. So what do we do to set up light effects? Basically, there's three parts to lighting effects in Campaign Cartographer 3+. There's the general setting that you need to turn on the lighting system, which is the easiest and simplest to do. And this is on the Global Sun command, and this is a little bit hidden here. So if I right-click the display properties button, you've got the Global Sun option here. And here we do need to activate lighting if it isn't already activated. And we've got that here with activate lighting, shadow blur, that is how much the shadows will be blurred, and the transparency, whether any shadows are ink black or just partially darkening stuff. We'll get back to this in a moment. I just wanted to show you this here. You need to make sure that this button here is checked if you want to see light effects on the map. The next thing are sheet effects. Sheet effects control the lighting as it generally looks on the map. And then we'll see how this applies to things. For this, I'm going to open up the sheet and effect setting and have a look here. Just pick one of the sheets and add a sheet effect. And we've got to set up lighting. First, we have to, that's a bit counterintuitive, the naming, we have to set up the finalist sheet effect. Once one of these is in the map, the overall sheet lighting effects will get applied. Here we can set the color of our lighting, how it's supposed to be, and I want to start by making not straight ink black this time, instead some nice nightly colored, very dark blue. Here we go. OK. And what happens if I click OK now? You'll see most of the map turns dark blue. So this is actually shadows, the stuff that gets affected by the lighting. We don't have any lights on the map itself yet, so we only get the shadow. But why only the background and the floor and not the walls and the symbols? That's because the sheet effect is at this point. It is on the floors sheet, so everything up to the floors sheet background, outside stuff which I haven't got on this map, and the floors get affected by the shadows. Everything beyond the effect, downwards from there, does not get affected by the shadows. Handy to have, so you know you can put the shadow on everything. So let's copy this effect, delete it here, and say I put it on my symbols torches, paste, and suddenly we've got it on all of this except the torches sheet here. The thing is, this can be handy, but it's actually better to have this on a separate new sheet, because you can then move that sheet around and change what gets affected. If I have it on one of these sheets here, I can't normally move the sheet because it's on a position where it's supposed to be, and if I move that, everything gets out of order. If I have a sheet with only that light effect, I can move that sheet around with impunity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new sheet and call that lighting end. Grab that effect, paste it on here, and now everything is just dark blue, except, as you can see, the map border and the symbols, because these are on effects further down. So I'm going to move one down, since if I had trees on the map, I might also want to have those affected. But text and grid are stuff that should not normally be affected by the lighting. Perhaps the grid, if you wanted to, then you could move that around, but I leave the sheet effect at this point. Now, as you see, it's not very useful at this point because it just plunges everything in total darkness. So I can't see anything of the map anymore. We've got several options to change this. For example, we can go into our, oops, that was the global sun again, and say our shadow transparency should only be 50%, perhaps. Apply this, and you can see, I can see my map again with the background in here. So, but I can also do what I wanted to show you in the effect here on the wall shadow, point light finalize effect. I can say that the shadow color is ambient light. Okay, should have. And what that will gonna do, it's gonna put the color as a colorization effect on all the entities on there. That means the brightness part of the color will still be visibly in some form. So you do get a very faint outline of stuff here. All the dark black parts are still visible if you do this as ambient light. I quite like that effect, though it's a bit too strong perhaps, and I do want to be able to actually see the map here doing stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine both. I'm going to do the ambient light effect, and I'm also going to do, say, a 75%. Oh, that's 80%. Okay, now I've confused. I've already found a bug here. Perhaps I need to go into the effect again and apply it again. No. Okay. I thought I had been doing this previously and had just worked just fine. Okay. No, it doesn't. So what we're going to do instead... no, it is. We do have to... it's just me being confused. Sorry for that. What I'm seeing is that the effect is just very weak, and I'm not actually spotting it on the map. If I glow a sun, I'm setting the transparency, not the opacity. So I say 80% transparency makes obviously the shadow not very visible. What I want to do instead, want to 15% transparency. That way we've got lots more effect here on the map. That's way. No, just a user error by me. Thank you, Quentin. Exactly, that's what I was doing. All right, so we can still see the map here. We can work on that. It's nicely dark and moody, and we obviously do need some lights now. So that's the third part of things adding lights. And how we do that, we do have in the dungeon menu a lights submenu, and there we can add light points. What I also want to do is I want to set up a separate sheet and layer for this to be separate from everything else, so easily hideable, selectable and everything. So I'm going to add a lights sheet. Actually put that above this, the lighting, or actually no, I should put it below, so the light entities we create are not affected by the light themselves. Okay, I've got an interesting question. What happens if I've said to finalize up? I have not actually tried that, so we might just give this a quick try. Let's just see if I copy this and put this on the floor sheet, whether we have any change in the map. It does get different, definitely. Interestingly, there's also obviously a little bug that the settings from the effect do not get carried over if I copy it. See, it's just black again without ambient light. Let's see if I change it to the same stuff I have on this effect. Basically, it's the same, almost the same as before, so you won't see much difference. I think it's just the last effect that limits the lighting. So, actually, there's a bit more color coming through, I think, if I turn on the effect. Can that be? Yeah, it does. There's a difference. So I think the effect gets applied twice. So if you like that, but it's not very predictable what happens, if you want to experiment with that, you do get some differences. Alright, so I've set up my lights effect, my lights sheet, and I'll also, just for convenience, set up a layer. Remember that layers in Campaign Cartographer are just organizational things. You can select by layer and stuff, but it does not affect the order of things, of maps. But you can also hide them individually, which can be very handy. All right, so I've got a Yeah, and I call it the layer. Let's rename it to lights. Here we go. Now I want to create a light on this. For this, I'm gonna go into the Dungeons menu, lights, and I'm gonna add a light. So how do I do that? I first click the point where I want to place my light. Let's make this a bit brighter first. I think we're going to make it a bit brighter first so I can actually show stuff off more easily, that you can actually see things. Let's make this 25% transparency. That way you can see a little bit more. Okay. Done lights, add light. I'm going to turn off the snap because I want to create the light that this torch casts. For that I'm going to click the center of the torch, and then I'm going to set a direction. That's the now vertical line you see. It doesn't matter if it doesn't have an effect if the light has a 30-60 degree radius, but you'll see something in a moment where I show you what effect the direction can have. So for the torch it doesn't really matter much. Let's say it has a radius of up to here. Now this is, if say you had a directional light like a torch or something, you could define the angle, and this would start from the direction you've given the light. But I do want to have a 30-60 degree light, so I'm just going to right click to affect the default, as you can see here in the command line at the bottom. Here we are, and here we can see that we have certain data. We have the light data, here we have the radius, so it's 15 feet. Our torch is currently brightening stuff. I'm just going to make this a round number so I can remember that. Might be useful for gaming purposes or so. And then the intensity 50% would be pretty low, so I'm going to actually do 100% intensity here for this. And then we can set a color to the lighting, so whether the candle or torch or whatever light we have has a certain tint. And the dark yellow might not be too bad, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make the light varicolor. That way I can change the color of the lighting by giving the light entity that you'll see in a second by changing the color of that light entity. And the rest is fine. I'll click OK, and I'm going to do refresh, and there's the lighting you can see, and this looks already very nice. As you can see that we do have the nice yellow torch light just brightening part of the room. See, it gets very dim as you get to the edge of our outline, and that's perfectly fine. I could make it a bit larger or stronger if I wanted, but you can actually go above 100% with the intensity to make it even brighter. But I'm pretty happy with this lighting. I'm not quite happy with the shadows yet, but I'm going to show you how to affect the shadows in a moment. First off, I want to give the same torch effect to all the different torches in this room. And I could add lights like this, but if I show my height, where's my lights? Show light symbols. You see the little yellow cross, and that's the entity that defines our light source in the map. And I can simply copy that like any other entity in Campaign Cartographer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to freeze everything but the lights layer. And that way I can't select anything but the light, so that I don't grab the torch together with the light option. Use the copy command here, click on light entity, see it selected, press D for do it, select the origin point or torch, and then we'll just copy them over here on top of the other torch symbols. got another question from Versus, whether we can make the lights respect the walls, and that's what I'm going to show you next, because we can. Refresh, and there, it's pretty bright, the light overlapping and everything, but we're going to add some more shadows in a second, which will lessen this effect. That's where we're going back to the second part of our lighting setup, the sheet effects, because there are other sheet effects we can add here. So first off, we could just, if you export the map or show it off, we would obviously want to hide the symbols again. So I'm just going to go hide light symbols, and then they are gone. But for working purposes, is obviously more useful if when they are visible. There we are. And as I said, if I wanted to change the color, let me show that first. You can do a change properties on this torch here and say this would be burning with a red flame. I can change that to a red color. And you can see the red effect here on the map, merging nicely with the rest of the light. But not at the moment. I want to turn it back to yellow. Now, obviously, the light would not be able to shine through the doors or beyond the walls into the rock outside, and stuff would be, the pillars here would be casting shadows. How do we set that up? For that, we do have the shadow, wall shadow effects. Let's click in here, and from then I need to, the effects, as all sheet effects do, work on a per sheet basis. So I decide what I want to cast shadows, the walls at this point. There's already a wall shadow directional effect here, but that will just throw a shadow across the map without regards to the lights. What I want to do instead, I want to create a wall shadow point light setup effect. And that has just one setting, and how long the shadow should be. And since we want the light to be completely blocked by the walls, we'll give it infinite length by keeping the 0 in here. Click OK and apply the effects, and there you can see that now the walls block the light, and all the little pillars here cast different shadows depending on where the others are, and give nice overlapping shadow effects. What I don't quite like is how sharp the edges are of the shadows. Obviously, with flickering torchlight, the shadows wouldn't be so clear defined. And what we can do there is we can go back into our global sun options and give this whole thing a little blur. That's half a foot. Might actually be a bit much. Let's do 0.3. And this is, I quite like that. There we are. And there's my now one room lit brightly by all the torches in there. So we do have another torch here. I want to add one too, so I can now go in again, copy. I've still got everything else frozen. Place that here. And there we have a nice light effect there at the end of the hall. And up here is the entrance. And I'm thinking I might want some daylight shining down the stairs, probably an open door or just a cave entrance at the top. And I want to have some light shining down this way, where the light source is actually beyond this. So how I'm going to do that? First off, I'm going to change my light to something bluish, so it might be the moon shining up there, or it's evening or something. And then I gonna add another light option here. Symbol, dungeons, lights, add light. Gonna turn on snap for a moment because I want to place it right into the center here. Turn off. And then I want to have it shine down almost all the way to the other side here, because it's gonna get quite weak at the end. Here we go. And this time the direction is important, because I'm obviously don't want it shining back beyond the other side. So I just want to do a 180 degrees angle. And I'm going to put in the 180 degrees there. Again, I'm going to set light as varicolor. Intensity, let's not make it quite as strong. So 80%. Refresh the map. And there you have the nice light shining down there from the top into the room. And this is very nice with the edges here. And then the moonlight slowly giving way into the torchlight at the end of the hall. And I quite like this effect. There we are. And then we can add some. Going to take a look here at this room, and there we only have a fireplace. So it's probably not quite as bright as one of the, if it's not burning brightly at the moment as one torch, but larger are the light. So we're gonna go the same thing again for the coloring. We perhaps say it's burned down. Let's take a little bit of an orangey color for this light. Dungeon lights and light. Place it here on the wall. And actually make it for the whole room, or perhaps almost the whole room like this. And I can make this 360 degrees because the wall will be blocking this. Oh, actually I might have made a mistake, but because I've placed the light within the shadow casting wall, that might cause some confusion. Let's have a look how it looks. And let's make this a 75% intensity for the light. Yeah, and what you're seeing is the wall itself gets lighted, but everything else, the edges of the wall block the light, so it doesn't get cast outside. So what we're going to do is just going to move this light here. Turn off snap and move it here into the actual fire. And there we are. And now we do have a nice effect here on the room. Probably burned quite low, the fire, just some embers glowing. But you can see we do have a shadow effect on the furniture. And the furniture does not, it's quite blurred. It's sort of correct to the lighting here on this side, but not at all on this side. So we do need a different set of effects for the furniture. That would be, let's have a quick look on the list where our symbols are on. List, press D for do it, and it's obviously on the sheet symbols. So we're gonna go to the symbol sheet, and there's, as you can see, a wall shadow directional effect. And while it's affected by the global sun direction, it's not affected to any light sources or anything. So that's why it's independent of our fireplace glow. So we're going to turn it off. And instead, I'm going to add again a wall shadow point light setup. But this time, because it's just an object in the room, and there's going to be some scatter light, we don't want an infinity shadow on this one. So instead we just might want a 2 feet shadow. Let's have a look. We apply that. And let's actually move that up above the glow. Apply. It's very weak. Let's make it a little bit longer. Probably. There you can see we do have some shadow. It's because the light is not very strong, but you can see it quite nicely here on the table and at the edge of the chair here. And that shadow fades away after 3 feet and merges into the rest of the darkness behind, which is quite nice and which is a nice effect for the symbol. Why doesn't it affect the fireplace itself, you might ask? Let's have a quick look if we list that. Because that was a count, not a list. List, select this, press D for do it, because that fireplace is on the symbols flat sheet. And that way you get different sheet effects for different sheets, and the symbols flat doesn't have any wall shadow effect, and we don't get any of this, and we don't want that because a flat object should obviously not cast a shadow. And for that, it's important to have set up different symbol sheets on the in a lighted map, because then you can give different shadow effects to different objects. Alright, so we're already getting a very nice effect here. Let's turn off the grid for a second and also hide our lights to see the general effect. And that's quite nice. Now I'm thinking my torches might actually be a bit strong, especially if you've got several of them here in the map, and I might want to have them not quite as strong as an intensity. And I can then ghost off. I can just use the numeric edit function, click on one of the light symbols, and it will bring up the lights here. And I can reduce the intensity, so to 80%. Away from the one, I see a little bit of a change. You don't see that much, but with just changing one torch. But I can go into lights and edit all lights, and then go through them and set the intensity there. I can recognize my torches by the color I've set. This is going to be a torch. This is a torch. This is a torch. This is not a torch. This is our daylight, and this is also not a torch. This is our fireplace, and I actually can have a look whether I want it a little bit more brightly. Yeah, quite like that. Now the difference is not quite as stark between the torch room here and the one with the fireplace, and I'm quite happy about that. Alright, so that's very nice. Let's take another look at some way to set up lights without an actual light sources. So let's say I want to put a crypt in here. Let's load up my symbols. There's a statue, some on the symbol sheet. I'm going to put in a statue in the center. Snap. Well, actually, no, I don't need a snap. Here we go. And some sarcophagi here on the walls. A couple down here on this side. Refresh. And you can see they vanish nicely into the shadows, so there wouldn't be any light effects or anything. The only thing is, I'm thinking, it's a bit boring. I've got all these nice light effects. I want a dark room, but I don't want it in this just one color. So what we can do is we can just set up a little bit of ambient light, make it low level, and just give some variation here. For that, I'm going to go back on my lights layer again. I'm just going to use extract properties on one of the lights. Then I'm going to choose let's grab a purplish color. And then I'm just going to put in a light, add light. Just put it here, make it a nice, not too large radius, 160 degree, keep the 50% intensity, and there we've got a nice little purplish glow. And now take another one, grab a green, symbols, dungeons, lights, add light, click here, do another circle, 360 degrees, and perhaps make it a lower intensity, 35, refresh. And then now you've just got some nice little color variations in there. You might even go in, let's show the light symbols. Oops, that was hide again, show light symbols there. If you want to make the effect a little bit more subtle, take this down to 40 and this down to 30. And hide the light effects again. And there we have a very nice little color variation on the map that doesn't show much, but just makes the room look a little bit less boring. Yes, Raven says the disco crypt. All right. And from there we can now go on and fill the map here. You can play around with the light settings and stuff. Say if you think you do need to really hide everything that's in the shadows beyond the walls or stuff that's not lit by anything, we can go into the global sun effects and put the shadow transparency to 0. There we go. And obviously through the contrast the lighting effects become much more pronounced, but still very nice. You can even strengthen the effect further by going into the light finalize effect and unchecking the ambient light option, and then everything will just be blue. Then it's probably going to be better if we made that color black instead. And then we do have just the lit parts, and everything is going to be turned into inky blackness on the map. It might be nice, and for the demonstration purposes here, I don't want that, so I'm going to set back my settings. Make this dark blue again, and also on the global sun, set this to 25%, or let's make it 20% shadow transparency. Here we go, and I'm quite happy with that look here. So that's very nice. Now you might want to do a larger map like this and have light sources like the torches that already have the light included. So let's see how we can do that and create a symbol that actually adds a light to our map. Let's have a quick look and go into our symbol manager. And look for our torch here. Already have an older one in here, so let's grab the torch symbol, click edit, define our editing window for that, and here's our torch. So let's try just adding a light to this. Symbols, the dungeons, lights, add light. Oh, center point for light here. And this, then we do want a direction and size. I'm gonna make it this direction up here. Actually, I can turn on orthogonal to make this easier. And I'm gonna edit this in numerically in a second. I'm gonna give it 300%. degrees, and here we are. So what did we have for our map? We had a 15 feet radius light source. This is where it came handy that we put in a even value, that a rounded value, so we could remember that. 80% intensity, very color light, and in the current one, well, I'm gonna change this in a sec. And here we are. Let's show our light symbols. Now there it is. It's green at the moment, so let's change the color to our yellow we were using on the torches. There we go. There we are. And what did I do? I did a edit of the existing symbol, so they now all have two light objects in there. That's not what I actually intended. What I forgot to do is actually clone the symbol and do a new version. So what we're going to do, we're just going to go into the symbol manager and fix this. We're just going to grab our torch again, do a clone, and call it torch with light. And then we're going to go into the original and erase our double light in there. And now we should have a clone symbol here, torch with light, all the same properties as the normal torch, just with the added light option. So, and then I'm going to grab this. This is an automatically aligning symbol, so it aligns to the wall. Place it there, and then define the distance. And since I know the walls are 1 foot thick, I want to offset it just half of that, so it's just on the outside. Offset is 0.5. Here we go. Have a look, and there's my light on the torch. The only thing that's the problem is at the moment, why do I have this strange shadow effect here? That's because I placed the torch on the symbols sheet, and the symbol sheet has a shadow effect. So light on the same sheet casts the shadow on the same sheet, and we get a problem. And that's why we should move the torch to its own sheet to symbols torches, which doesn't have a shadow effect. There we are, and there's our nice lighting of this torch. Let's use extract properties on the symbols torches and actually put that on the wall features sheet where it belongs. Torch, one on the other side here. Keep the offset. Okay, did I grab the wrong one? Oh, what did I do wrong here? Let's try again. Yeah, I think I grabbed the wrong torch. And there we are. And that way it's much easier to light our dungeon by just going through it and adding torches where I want them. One here, one here, one here. And take the correct torches, Ralph, not the one without links, without lights. Let's do this again. That's much better. So that's already good way to lighting our dungeon here. Let's hide the lights again for a moment. There we are. And you can see it becomes very nicely shadowed and transitions of brightness in there in the map. Yes, there was the question that about animated lights. No, sorry, we can't do animated lights at the moment. That's not something Campaign Cartographer is set up to do. It's all going to be a static image. Basically, there's no timer or anything on this map, nothing that gives a progression over time. Only if when you do something changes. So there's no way to change stuff over time in the map. And I should be able to change the coloring of these here. Let's have a look. Yes, I could probably. Let's have a look whether changing the color on the symbol, just like this, does have an effect. Sue asks whether I can change the color of these lights individually as well. It doesn't work on this one here, and if I change it within the symbol, it will obviously affect all of these all versions of that symbol. But what I can do is I can actually make the symbol a varicolor symbol. Options. So it's not strictly necessary. And edit. And what I do in the map is I make the light symbol varicolor. Symbols make varicolor. Select the object. There we go. And if I do that now, see, we now have a different colors on these. That's because the light within the torch does take on the coloring of the symbol, and that's very nice. So we can now change them individually, and thank you, Sue, for reminding me of that. That's a very useful thing to do. So I'm going to change color, and I'm going to change these to yellow again, same as here. And I'm just going to keep this torch in a different color to make put a little bit of variation in there. So one more thing is if I wanted to do something that gives off some ambient light, like a lava pool or something, something crossed my mind. It's not going to be very different from just adding some ambient lights without any light sources in there. So, but let's have a look what we have in this style. I'm not sure we do have a lava fill in here. Let's have a quick look. No, we only have the water, but we can use that for a night. Oh no, actually we do have some water. It's some lava in here. So let's grab this. So this would be on the outside sheet. Let's put it in here first and then just turn off auto. Put a lava fissure in here. Go. It's going to hide now because the outside sheet is below the. And now I'm just going to move it down because I'm just reusing that because I don't have any other outside stuff here. The sheet effects are not what I want because I don't want edge fade in here. Instead, I do want a stark outline. So I'm going to add a glow on the outside, a very dark one, say 25% strength, just a quarter foot. The outside. And actually let's make that a dark red on the inside. That's weaker but wider. Let's go at 5 foot map units. Go. And now I want a little glow on here from the lava. Obviously, I do need a darkish red glow. Oops, I want to extract properties from my light first. So I put everything on the lights sheet and layer again. So let's grab a reddish color. Molds. Lights, add light, and I'm not going to make it very large. 360 degrees, 50% of intensity seems fine. Let's make it varicolor again. There we go. And by copying and overlaying that, you can give that some intensity changes. Because the light adds to each other as they overlap and gets stronger if you put several across on top of each other, just like a normal light would do. And for that, gonna turn off light effects again. Hide light effects. And there we've got a nice glowy section of lava on the floor. All right, and that looks pretty nice. Nice color variation again. And I might even put a little bit extra on top of that, a little bit farther but weaker glow. So lights, add light. Just put that in the middle here and make it larger, 360 degrees, and just at 25%, and perhaps a darker red. And that gives them, again, a little bit of texture, more reach of the light without being that apparent. Nice, I like it. Alright, now there's really only one thing to do which I wanted to show you, and that is how to make the lights appear correctly right at the start. Because if you start Campaign Cartographer and open a new map, the lights will be on by default. You will have the light symbols shown like this, and this is obviously useful for editing purposes, but not what you want to see when showing the map to someone directly. So, and there's no setting in Campaign Cartographer as such to turn off the light symbols by default, but we can do that in a macro, and especially in the open macro of a map. So I'm going to click the drawing properties, go into the map nodes, click my on open macro, and yeah, you see there we've got some special stuff in here. I'm gonna show that here in a second anyway. So what I want to do is I want to hide the lights when I open the map, and the command for that is light hide. Put a line at the end, so you've got, because the command needs a line break at the end. Click OK. And now if we open that map again, so if I just reopen that, it should work. It turns off the light options. Alright, and that's how the map would appear on opening, with the rooms lighted here and symbols adding shadows, the pillars here and the walls casting shadows, and I quite like that. So we've got a question for strength. Ralph put 0. To me that would mean no effect at all. On the glow effect. Yeah, that's perhaps a bit confusing, but it's the glow effect is on when, and 0 is just the minimum strength. We used to have a numerical value from, I don't know, 1 to 12 or something in there, or 0 to 12, which wasn't very, or was from 0 to 8 actually, and it didn't tell us much, and so we put in percent values. And because they still use the same scale, they go in 12.5% steps. It's just like it is at the moment. It's perhaps not the perfect interface for the glow effect, but it's something we might look at and change in CC4. Okay, so one more thing I wanted to show off as a little teaser, and that some functionality will be adding pretty shortly for everybody to Campaign Cartographer. We are working on a bit more of random generation of dungeons. And the style here is actually this layout has already been done with the random dungeon generator. And so I'm just going to show you a bit by creating a new map in the John Roberts style. Next, do 200 by 160 feet map. Finish, and save this as a temporary map, or not. There we are. Don't know why I got this delay there for a second. Anyway. And then what I'm doing now with if you do the same, the random dungeon would bring up our old random dungeon generator, which is a bit tricky and doesn't produce always the nicest dungeon layouts. And the new one is here, produces this kind of layout. There you can set stuff like minimum number of rooms, maximum number of rooms, the room size, the minimum grid size of the layouts, and you can create new random settings here, different previews, and then just click OK. And you get a little nice dungeon layout. You can see there's still some oddities here. The stairs are a little bit off, but they're easily moved to the correct position. And we've got very nice layouts, dungeons, which you can then fill in with furniture and stuff and lights if you want to. So I hope this little teaser makes you eager to get your hands on it. I hope it's not going to take much longer for some nice dungeon layouts to play around with, and we'll be adding more functionality to that over time to do different shapes of forms and caves, hopefully, and stuff like that. But I think this is on a very nice direction. I quite like the dungeon layouts already. Alright, so that's it for the moment, and can't say much more about the dungeon generator yet. I will keep you posted via the blog and the news and the newsletter. Keep an eye on that. All the best. Thank you very much. Hope you liked the session, and see you again next week. All the best. Bye bye.